Hello everyone, this is question number 17. This question belongs to operating system. The question says that in Linux operating system, when dash is invoked, so there must be a process name. It is passed a set of flags that determined how much sharing is to take place between the parent and child task. So here by reading the question, we have observed that there is a communication between parent and child, and there is a common data between the parent process and child process, but they are talking about the control over the sharing of this data. Let's read the options one by one. Fork process. As we all know that fork process is basically when a process being executed and it creates its child process. There is a process and which called the parent process, and when this process execute, it creates its fork. It's create its fork nodes, or we can say it's create its fork process. These processes are called the child process, but they are not talking about the sharing of the resources or sharing of the data. Here fork means we are creating the child process of a parent process as well. But in order to make it advanced, we have a clone process. Clone process is basically the upgraded version of the fork call. Here I have mentioned that the sum of the specification of clone is clone function or clone system call is an upgraded version of fork call, because in the fork what we have done, we are sharing the data between the process and the child process, but how much, or there is no control between the sharing of the data. But in the question they explicitly asked whether in which process or whether in which function we could say that we having the control over the how much sharing is taken place between the parent and child process, where clone come into the picture, and it says it is powerful since it creates a child process and provides more precious control over the data shared between the parent process and child process. So one thing is clear here that the correct option for this question will be clone. So let's understand the remaining options as well. Pthread means what? Pthread full form is POSIX thread. We can say the Pthread's full form is POSIX thread. It is an execution model. It is not any kind of process, or we could say explicitly it is an execution model. It is a kind of tool which we have used in order to execute the functions, and that means it exists independent only. There is nothing called child process or parent process. It exists independently, and it is an execution tool or execution model, we could say. Now let's come to the talk about thread. We all know that thread is the lightweight process, and thread is something which is share the things called we have a process and there is the thread of this particular process, and the thread is something which we call that it is the lightweight process, and they have shared the data. Of course they have shared the data and heap, and we all know that every thread having its individual stack. So stack is not shared by the threads, but they can share the data, they can share the heap, but they have no control, they have no such control over the data shared between the process, and there is no concept called parent and child process as well. So in order to sum up this video, I can say the correct option for this question will be clone.